Lebo, good for you to be with us this afternoon. So let's take a look at what's coming up this weekend, and we have to start with the Rugby World Cup. I know we're not playing this weekend. We're having a bit of a breather. Nice for the fans as well to have a bit of a breather, seeing as the Springboks have put us through a bit of misery throughout the tournament. But there's still massive interest for us here, isn't there? With Wales, Australia tomorrow. We will, of course, play the losers of that game. So we'll be watching that with interest. Who do we want to be playing, and who's likely to come out tops?
Look, I think Australia will be able to go through to beat Wales. Looking at the last 10 matches between the two countries, Australia has won 10 out of 10. And I think, for South Africa, obviously, South Africans have been looking at maybe Wales. But I think, the Springboks camp will be looking at either team. I think they'll be prepared for either Australia or Wales. But I think that, whichever team, I think the South Africans or the Springboks will be prepared. But looking at that particular match, I think Australia have a better chance of actually making it. And in fact, the winner of that match will be able to avoid New Zealand up to the semi-finals. So, it will be an advantage for a team that becomes successful tomorrow.
All right, so both of those teams, Wales and Australia, have tremendous victories behind them, and so riding on quite high spirits. But you are backing Australia to win this one tomorrow. Why is that?
Look, I mean, if you look at the pedigree of Australia, they are ranked number 2 in the world. Just like Wales, they've not lost in this particular World Cup. And the way they've been playing, I mean, I think they've been more impressive as compared to Wales. And looking as well, as I mentioned earlier on, looking at the records between the two countries, whilst Wales will want to break their hoodoo against Australia, but I think Australia will have the upper hand.
All right, so if we make it through to, I'm now throwing forward to next weekend, if we beat whoever we play, Wales or Australia, next week's quarterfinals, what happens to us going forward?
Look, obviously we'll be going to the semi-finals, but I think that South Africa will then meet New Zealand, should New Zealand then make it to the semi-finals, which I think it will be a tough one. I think South Africa would have probably, if New Zealand had gone to the finals, would have probably preferred to have New Zealand in the finals. But, looking at the Springboks and how they were able to come out of that defeat against Japan and be able to have their successful victories afterwards, I think that, going forward, there's a possibility that they can be able to reach a final and actually have an impressive World Cup altogether, despite, that defeat in the opening match. And as well, looking that they've not been doing well, since they came together in camp, playing in the Rugby Championship and not doing well as well there. But I think, the morale has been boosted by the victories that they've had, especially against the United States, not conceding, and having records as well, or equaling records there. So I think that, there's that morale boost and motivation in the team that they can actually become successful or have an impressive World Cup.
All right, and then bringing it back home, not forgetting the domestic league. On the local front with the Currie Cup, we've got quite an interesting match tomorrow, that epic battle.
An epic battle, but because you look, the Sharks and the Cheetahs, they're playing each other, they're playing in Bloemfontein, so the Cheetahs have got that home advantage. But you look as well that the Cheetahs drew in their last match against the Pumas, and you look that the Sharks had a victory, so the Sharks as well come there with a bit of motivation, high spirits that they actually want to make it to the semi-finals. You look at the Cheetahs are actually 21 points, they have 21 points, and the Cheetahs have got 19 points. But I think it's an epic one, an interesting one. Tomorrow it will be very difficult to predict which team will be able to be successful. But looking at the Cheetahs, I think they've got the upper hand against the Cheetahs have got the upper hand against the Sharks. The Sharks didn't start well in this Currie Cup. They battled to eventually find themselves where they are as compared to their last season, where they did extremely well. So I think that looking at tomorrow's fixture against between the Cheetahs and the Sharks, I think that one will be epic. Very difficult to predict, but I think that the Cheetahs will be able to come out tops.
All right, and another interesting match from last night now in football. Bafana playing very well against Costa Rica, but as someone mentioned to me earlier, everyone was sleeping. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, so nobody really got to watch, but they played very well.
They played extremely well. I wouldn't say it was an impressive match in terms of Bafana, but I would say that they were very brave and they showed character. In the first 20-25 minutes, they played well, they interchanged passes, eventually even getting that early goal and be able to defend. I think what was impressive about the entire match was they were able to defend that lead for 81 minutes. They scored in the 9th minute, were able to defend it. Tactically, I wouldn't say that the coach got it completely right. I think he opted for to be defensive in the second half when Costa Rica was all over Bafana. At some point, for about 15 minutes, Bafana Bafana were being played in their own half, which was a bit of a concern. Him eventually bringing in, having 5 defenders, having 3 defensive midfielders, and only having 2 midfielders who play on the wings. So it was a bit, I'm not sure whether Shakes, whether he actually predicted that, Costa Rica would eventually be on top of them. But I think it was good preparation ahead of the game against Honduras on Tuesday.
All right, so lots of sporting action, but of course we have to wrap now due to time. But there is the President's Cup. We're still keeping a close eye on that. We're playing very well. Brandon Grace and Louis Oosthuizen just edging out Jordan Spieth and Dustin Johnson there. So exciting stuff happening in Korea with the President's Cup. And then, of course, on Sunday we've got Sochi, the Grand Prix. We had the practice session today. So the usual suspects in the mix for Sunday. But we have to wrap it there, Lebo. Thanks very much. That's our sports reporter, Lebo Dube, just filling us in on what we can look forward to for your sporting action this week.